So you recently went with the family to Aspen over the holidays. Mm-hmm. What was it like to all spend time together?
You know, a lot of it, like, you wouldn't know anything had changed.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference was he went there ahead of time. But other than that, once we were there, it was like, cooking at home and playing games, karaoke. Sometimes we'd all go out together, the family. Sometimes I would just go with the girls. But it was pretty much like no different, honestly.
So not awkward?
No. I mean, there were a couple times where I was like, okay. I mean, we sleep in different bedrooms now. Yeah. And, waking up in the morning, like having coffee, we're always the first ones up. So we would talk, and sometimes it was a little bit like, oh, there's so much to talk about, but I don't really want to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't either. So a lot of times I did feel a little bit like, okay, there's this like, for lack of a better word, elephant in the room that we're not discussing, but which is probably what, got us in this position in the first place, not communicating enough. So, but other than that, no, it's like, oh, let's go skiing. Like, we skied together,
But it's kind of interesting because as much as, like there would be, something constructive about talking about all of that stuff, on the other hand, you sort of don't want to ruin the family time. And if you guys were to talk about that, that's what it wouldn't be a vacation. It wouldn't be the family together. It feels like there's like a different forum for you guys to have those conversations.
Exactly. And, I don't think that that's the problem. We don't, say we should do this another time.
And actually do it.
Or we do, but then we don't end up doing it. So, yes, of course I don't want to do that when the family's there and, we're all having fun. The kids will make jokes sometimes. Everyone's gotten to that place. I am in a much better place than I was last year. My gosh. I was in a terrible place last year. But
you seem sturdier than I think you were.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much worse it could have been.
No.
I mean, it could have been, obviously.
Yeah. No, but it just seems like the only way through it is to just keep going. And do you think, kind of zooming out for a second, when Mo and PK were here on Hot Mic, we talked a lot about the impact that the show has on marriages. Mo just said, look, we had a great marriage, but what happened to us and us going in different directions was totally unrelated to being, on television in the public eye, all of it. What do you think?
I agree with Mo for us.
Yeah.
Every situation, every marriage is different. For us, it had nothing to do with the show. We did the show together for many years and we were fine through it. I was very happily married and we were... the show did not affect us in that way at all. He was very supportive of me, and I was able to lean on him during, difficult times during the show. What I do think is that money and the attention that comes with fame and all that does affect a marriage, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything affects a marriage, and so I think, and those are big inputs. Once your life becomes bigger and more complicated.
Yes.
I mean, I would imagine it would.
Well, but I mean, so many say the reality show curse, but it definitely was not that. I've always said people who do come into the show with cracks in their marriage and they think this show is going to be my out. It's going to give me something of my own. I'll have my own income. It'll give me something to do, Those are the marriages that crack under pressure of reality television.
Yeah.
When I felt pressured, I had him to lean on. So, but, as, the agency grew and, you have to remember, we started out with nothing.
Yeah.
I had 3 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. And those are some of the best times of my life. And I always said, if we don't have any money, it's fine. We don't need to live here. I don't want to live in LA with no money, but let's go somewhere. Let's go to Vail, But with that comes, it opens up a whole other world. You're traveling, you're going places. he's getting attention that he didn't get before. There's more people looking at him. All of a sudden, he's a rich man and people are, it's a very different situation. I think even looking and seeing him as a great husband, a great dad is appealing to some of these women out there that don't care if someone's married, and just having that, I think, thrown in your face all the time. And of course, me being busy and traveling and, I think all of that just did not help.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like you looked up and then realized how much had changed because it had changed over a period of time. And you guys were still so busy together making the life that you had together and raising the girls. And then at a certain point, it just seemed like you were in different places in life.
Yeah. No, I mean, when we were first married, we didn't do girls' night out or guys' night out, anything like that. And partially because I was so scared of losing what we had.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was just a fear of mine, holding on too tight because I was so afraid something would ruin and take away that, what I loved so much and what I had built. But then, it's like, I'm looking all of a sudden, it's like I'm traveling, I'm shooting the show, I'm traveling, he's going on, work trips, guys trips. And next thing you know, you're like, wait, what happened to the things that we used to live by before? And it's just, everything's different now. The agency grew, my career grew, his career grew. But, it also was, we would go to like work events for him. And there would be a lot of fans from the show, and it would be harder to go to those events. And so I would often say, he would say to me, well, do you want to come to this event? I'd love you to be there. You're just going to be taking pictures all night. Just know that, or something like that. So then I wouldn't go. So there were like little things like that, and
like they add up, and you
and like he had a trip to go on, and I'm like, well, I'm going to be filming, so one of us has to be here with, the girls. So I'll stay and then you go. And, just not making our marriage a priority.
Yeah.
Because there were so many things going on.
This has been a tough season for you on the show. Mm-hmm. And when you were filming it, by and large, you had a tough time, and I know your hope going into it was that it would be easier than it was the season before, and it was, in the sense that, you're in a different place with your marriage, and you're a little bit further along, and it's a little bit more clear to you that, the road ahead will look different than the road behind it. Mm-hmm. But it still was tough for you. Why do you, where does this sort of place in all of the seasons you've done the show, and why do you think that it was so particularly difficult?
Well, it places, for me, anxiety-wise, maybe the end of season 1.
That bad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Season 5. And was it 10? There was parts of season 10 that it bothered.
You see, when you've done the show for 14 seasons, you have rankings and you have choices.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just say 1 and 5 because while season, was it 12? 12? Mm-hmm. No, 13. Sorry, it was season 13.
Season 13 was...
Season 13. While that was a difficult time for me because that's when the stuff with Mo, it was just starting. And people thought I was hiding it. We didn't really know where things were going.
Right.
And I'm in a much better place with him now than I was then. I was also... I had still not processed Lorene taking her life. Yeah. I worked with NAMI, but I originally had reached out to another organization, and I was going to do this event, and they said to me, we can't do this with you because you have not processed Lorene's death yet. And I was like, what do you mean? And it all came later. So last year is when, even though things were better with Mo and me, the realization that I don't think we're going to be together was, very painful. And him moving out was so strange when you've lived with somebody more than half your life. And I think all of a sudden, Lorraine's death hit me. It's like it all was just coming at me at once. And I think I told you this, but I went through this really weird thing where, this is going to sound weird for a second, but I'm very, very ticklish, like crazy ticklish. Like if you tickle me, I will get violent. I lose my marbles. And all of a sudden, I wasn't ticklish. And I was like, what is going on? And I was getting a facial, and the girl was like, that's so weird. I could never go back here before. And I said, do that again. I felt nothing. So then I was like, well, that's weird. So then I had like one of my girls, I'm like, will you tickle my feet? I felt nothing. And I realized I had just something in my brain to shut off. I was feeling nothing. And it was like the stuff talking about Mo and me not being together or Lorraine taking her life. It was so painful to think about that something in my brain allowed me to shut that part off.
Just to survive.
Yes. And then last year, it was like it all came alive in me. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my God. Oh my gosh. I can't, this has really happened. This is not, it felt so surreal.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, it was very real to me. So going into this season, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm very vulnerable right now. And, I knew I was already kind of going in with my hands behind my back a little bit because I had to tell the women there were certain things that, I couldn't talk about. And I was hoping they were going to give me a little grace because I am very open and I'm happy to share about myself. In fact, I find it to be therapeutic. But there's certain things that, either my kids didn't want me to say or, and you have to be a little, like, at the end of the day, I have to think about that stuff too.
Watch the video edition of Bravo's Hot Mic podcast at bravotv.com/podcast or listen for free wherever you get your podcasts.